Thank you guys all so much for joining us with the Freeland Film Festival. We have a representative from each of the films you guys just watched. We have Colleen Cooley from Water Flows Together. We have Katie Schuler from Nigerians Fight to Protect the World's Most Trafficked Mammal. We have Rose Madrone with Plants Have Wings, and Lenore Rinder, which, how do you pronounce this? Kagaraja, Lord of All Animals?
Kagaraja.
Kagaraja, Lord of All Animals, perfect. So thank you ladies all for joining me today, and we can get started with Colleen because that's the first film you guys watched. And Colleen, I was just wondering if you could talk about how your journey really started as a river guide and how that work has impacted the people that you've given tours to.
Yes, thank you for having me, and thank you for watching my film, everybody out there. I just wanted to mention, thank the filmmakers as well. They were not able to join us for this Q&A. Taylor Buzzle, and also Palmer and Matt with Spruce Tone Films. I just want to acknowledge them before we get started. Well, my journey started when I was, I had participated in a Native American river guide training and cultural interpretation program that my older sister started at Northern Arizona University. And it ran for about 3 years, and she started it because she was also a former river guide on the Colorado River. And she just saw a need for more Native guides to be the interpreters and the people telling the stories of their connection to the place and to the water and to the history that is down there in the Grand Canyon. So she mostly worked on that river and just saw that need because the guests were just so interested. There's people that come from all over the world to see this place and take a journey down the river. So the training happened through the program on the San Juan River because the San Juan River is a little bit more accessible to families, to people in, for high school students, a different range of audiences and people that come from all over as well. So that was back in 2008, I believe, when I participated in that program. And I just immediately fell in love with it, everything about it. And I know it's part of my homelands as a Diné person, but a lot of other indigenous nations as well, as I mentioned in the film. And so that's when my journey started, and I started working with a company in southern Utah, formerly Wild Rivers Expeditions, but now they are known as just Wild Expeditions because they offer land tours as well. So since then I've been guiding on and off for that company. And yeah, everything I mentioned in the film is how I feel when I go on that river, whether it's with the commercial company or as a private trip with family and friends.
Could you talk a little bit more about the importance to you, especially as an Indigenous woman, the importance of having Indigenous people as stewards of the land for visitors coming in?
Mm-hmm. I think it's important for Indigenous peoples to be the stewards. I mean, we are the stewards of the lands and waters around us. We have, I think, an innate connection to lands and waters around us because it's part of our clans, it's part of our stories, it's part of our teachings, it's part of who we are. And when I talk to people about this, we're not separate. We're not separate from nature. We're not separate from the lands and waters around us. But it might seem that way, especially if you do not have access to it, if you're surrounded by concrete, if you're surrounded by buildings, and there's a history to each of these places before all these structures were built. And so I think for going back to the need for having more Native guides is because it's our homeland, you know, it's where we have some of our people still visit these places to gather medicine, to make their prayers and offerings when they are able to have access to it. You know, a lot of our people might not have access to it, but they, you know, for me, when I started guiding, I just felt like I returned, you know, back home in a sense, you know, because I wasn't ever able to go on that river when I was younger until I got into this program that my sister had started. So I think it's important for us because we have a different story to tell, I think. And it's also reconnecting us to the landscape and to these places that we've probably heard in our stories from our elders or from our relatives. And so it all comes back full circle, I think, for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was super excited when I saw this film. The land is so beautiful, and it was really special to see you being a steward of it, and not like I've been down to Moab, which I know is like a different area, but just I see when I'm down there a lot of like non-Indigenous river guides and things. So it was really refreshing to see you doing that work and teaching others to do so. Our festival, when it does take place in person, takes place on Ho-Chunk land. So we are doing, you guys can watch, we're having a traditional Native invocation Saturday at 10 a.m. And several other Indigenous programs. So I'm super excited to have you as a part of it. So thank you so much. Can move on to Katie. I was wondering how you got involved in this story, especially when you're shooting in Nigeria, which is, you know, all the way across the world. How did you make that connection, and why was this story important to you?
Thank you, Dawn. Just a quick thank you for having this Q&A and hosting my film as part of the Freeland Film Festival. It's such an honor to be included with all you wonderful women here today. And so the film was sort of originally meant to be a sequel to the first pangolin film that I made, that basically it covered the entire trafficking route of a single pangolin from the moment it's captured in the wild in Southeast Asia to the moment it's consumed in China. And I wanted to do that same story, but following the African trade route, because many of the species in Asia are now down to such low numbers that the demand is now sourcing from all the 4 species in Africa. And as this becomes more of an issue, I wanted to bring attention to it. So we arrived in Nigeria, and we went specifically to Lagos because that is one of the largest hubs for exportation of pangolin out of Africa. And although we arrived planning on documenting the trade, we ended up basically documenting the people that are going to extreme lengths to save this threatened animal. And it's not often that you get a pangolin story that has a message of success. So that was definitely something we were all very pleased with.
We've seen, you know, in the headlines a lot lately when we're talking about the pandemic getting related back to wildlife trafficking. So I was wondering if you wanted to touch on that topic a little bit, and any inside knowledge that you've had while working in these places and telling these stories.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, zoonotic diseases definitely shine a light on how we are interacting with our environment in a negative way, and that the more and more we encroach on wildlife and wild spaces, you know, there are going to be animals there with viruses that are going to find a way to jump to humans. There's no way to know for sure that pangolins were in fact the intermediary vector between COVID-19 and humans. We just don't have enough data from the wet markets to really answer that question. But it's sort of a weird silver lining to their involvement is that they're getting a lot more attention. A lot more people have heard about pangolins, which is great. And they're getting a few more protections, and both in the US and China, there's discussions being had about how better to protect them and increase their endangered status. China's put a bunch of things in place to try to ramp down on the consumption of both wildlife and the trade of illegal wildlife products. So it definitely could have a positive impact on the animal. But the bigger, message here is just that this is just going to keep happening if we don't find a better way to live in harmony with nature and stop encroaching on wildlife and their habitat.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have actually a whole section in the festival with like original Freeland content videos, a whole section of End Pandemics that's talking a lot about the link of wildlife trafficking to what's going on in our world now and the things you're saying. So if you guys want to see more about that, you can definitely check out that section.
Very cool.
Rose, you've been in this festival before, so welcome back. Thank you. I was wondering if you could talk about your series, because it's really inspiring to us. Our tagline for our festival is Stories That Inspire. And I feel like your films really embody that. And so could you talk about the series and what the purpose is behind that?
Sure, I'd be really happy to. So I'm really grateful to be at the festival again. Thanks for asking us back. And my whole crew is really pleased to be able to be at a festival with the integrity that yours has. Thanks for being so particular about what you carry. So I'm working on a series. We have 3 different films at this point. We've sort of made them educational. We've made them in blocks of 15 so that they can easily be used in the schools or with congregations or nonprofit organizations that are trying to raise awareness. And our basic concept is it's addressing that question that we sometimes have of, does what I do matter? Because I think we often are really like perplexed about that. And so we weave these beautiful stories of how the world functions in an interconnected way, because it does. And we talk about the different ripple effects that our actions create. So if you put those 2 things together, you could imagine that one of the answers is yes, that what we do matters. So this particular piece is called Plants Have Wings, and my actual background before becoming a filmmaker was a botanist, and pollination, the dance between the plant and the animal worlds, is like my favorite topic because it is so beautiful and incredible, and it blends 2 worlds together. And in our piece, we interviewed some really interesting people. We talk about the importance of it, and we follow a really inspired young woman who's a cyclist and how she becomes an activist in order to support pollinators on a bike ride with 20,000 other people. So it's a positive, like it gives you inspiration. Like everybody who sees it goes, oh, darn it, you are making me garden in a different way now. Like I realize I need to change a little bit of my style, and that's the whole purpose. And we're doing it in a very, empowering way to understand pollination, but really just that ubiquitous understanding that what you do actually matters. And so being able to do this in shorts like this it's under the name Connectivity Project. So that's the name of our series. And we're just now getting our new website up. Like it'll be up in a couple days because we needed to modify it from our old one. So we've had an incredible person helping manifest that. And I invite you all to come and look at it. And again, just am really grateful to be at this festival again. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And Lenore, last but not least, I'm so happy to have you, especially because you're from Wisconsin. Our fest takes place in Wisconsin. I'm from Wisconsin. So I'm super excited. I couldn't believe that there was a Milwaukee filmmaker making the work that you're making. Like, I just didn't know people in Milwaukee were traveling across the world and capturing these stories, which I was just like, this is so cool. So I'm super excited. I was wondering if you could talk about how you have even got involved with this work as someone from Milwaukee making films not about that area at all.
Well, first I have to thank you. I'm so honored to be here. The festival looks so exciting, and all these panelists are wonderful. And so Milwaukee, I went to UWM Film School. So I kind of have like an independent, very artistic background as being a painter and animator. I got a degree from UWM in painting and animation. But I started painting in my studio for the last 10 years and listening to the radio, NPR, and every day I heard a story about another animal going extinct, and I couldn't believe it. And, you know, the gorillas are down to 500, and the rhinos, and all these animals that we are causing extinction to. So I got really interested in tiger extinction because they said the tigers were going extinct. And I'm thinking, you know, all the animals that we grew up with in the zoo, the lions, the tigers, the elephants, they're all getting offed by humanity. So I started traveling to India because I'm retired, and I finally got a chance to travel. And I went to India 4 times in the last 8 years. And I hooked up with this one man who is phenomenal. He's very humble. He started out as a tour guide, but the more I got to know about him, he said, I can take you to poachers. I can get you interviews with poachers. And we've been emailing each other like on Facebook, and I'm going, wow, how can people not like Facebook? I'm talking to this guy in India who's going to take me to film poachers and find out what their story is. So after a couple of years of working with him and doing other tiger videos, he took me to a place out in the boondocks of Bangalore, India, where there are human beings actually poaching tigers and working in this fake tiger skin trade market, where they are creating tiger skins out of dog pelts and deer skins and all kinds of fake tigers, and they crayon the stripes and they make them look like tigers, and they sell them on the black market and in other fairs. And you'd think that that would be a good thing, like people would buy fake tiger skins, but it actually stimulates the market, and people want them. Even priests want tiger skins to sit on and look elegant. Anyway, so that was fascinating and amazing. And the more I work with him, the more I find out about how we are so linked up with what we are doing to the environment. The poverty of these people, the poachers. At first I hated them before I met them, like everyone else, but they are the poorest of the poor people. They've been evicted from the forests themselves because there's only 7% left of the tiger's previous habitat. And now we are still encroaching. And it's a long story, and I'm going to be working hopefully in a couple of years or next year. I'm going to hopefully really get into this, what do you call it, symbiotic relationship that we have with nature and how we are destroying it and ourselves at the same time.
Mm-hmm. like Rose was saying. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much. You guys are all seriously doing really important work. So I really commend you all. I'm super proud to get to talk to you guys. I just wanted to end by letting you guys all share where more people can learn about you or the work you're doing, or if you have a place that, you know, is accepting donations. Like I think, Katie, you have the Pangolin Crisis Fund. So Colleen, is there anywhere that you would like people to go if they wanted to learn more about you or your work?
I wish I did. You can Google me. You can Google my name. I've done it myself. I don't have my own website or, I don't have my own website, but I would like to point out some programs that might be of interest to others. There's the NavajoYes.org. And this guy has started this organization to inspire and empower youth to have access to the outdoors, but also be healthy and active on the Navajo Nation. And so he's done several like marathon runs, done trail projects, and just a number of other things. I think they're doing like virtual runs as well. So you can look that organization up. And also another one, Adventures for Hopi. And another young Hopi guy started this to also do something similar for the Hopi youth to try to give them access to their backyards, basically, you know, and finding the gear for them to do that. And I think that's part of some of our, you know, because I didn't have access to some of those things when I was younger myself. So I'm glad there are a few programs out there that are available for our youth. And I mean, it's not to say that we don't have access to the outdoors. I mean, that's where we grew up and have a connection to. It's things like, you know, when you see people rock climbing or have these nice bikes or are able to go backpacking, you know, those kind of things. We don't have, some of our youth and our people don't have readily accessible gear or access to these places. Like, you know, it takes a vehicle to get to the Grand Canyon, for example. Some families might not be able to provide that for their kids. So I just want to point out those two programs. And again, thank you for having me part of this Q&A and for watching the film. And I hope it inspires all of you out there to maybe connect or reconnect to your surroundings. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. Katie?
Yeah, I think you mentioned PangolinCrisisFund.org, but I also wanted to quickly mention, if y'all remember, the main character in the film is Mark Ofua, and you can actually donate directly to him and his pangolin conservation efforts at stmarkvet.com.ng. And he actually just sent me a video the other day showing that he had the first pangolin birth right at his shelter. So he's doing a lot of amazing work right now, building new facilities and enclosures to help rehabilitate pangolins as they're transitioning from the illegal trade back to the wild safely. So feel free to help him out. Every little bit is is helpful for him. So thanks in advance, and thanks so much for having me.
Awesome, thank you. Rose, where can people find your series?
Well, we actually, like I said, have an educational component to what we're doing. So we're actually looking for teachers and administrators that we'd like to get our work to, because we have a whole curriculum and et cetera that goes with it. And so you can go to connectivityproject.com, and you could, if you go to it now, there's a fine website there with a teaser on it for the project. But if you wait a week, so we should be up and running with our new well-designed, modified website soon. And really, if you are a teacher or you know of teachers, we are looking for how to disseminate our information, because we across the board are getting the, like we had a 5th grade teacher using our work right when the pandemic hit. And he said, you've given me a language in order to talk to the kids about what's going on with this interconnectedness. And I know the racial justice thing that's going on these days, that, like what is not interconnected? It's such an alluring thing. And, if we put those glasses on and have that better sight, we'll feel a little bit more empowered about our own lives and act on that. So thank you very much. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody's films. So please, connectivityproject.com, and just be in touch with us.
Awesome, thank you. Lenore, do you have a website?
Yeah, but I think it would be easier if you just Googled People of the Wild Tiger, or I can send you the long address, or do you want me to tell you what the address is right now?
If people Google that, and then if you email to me, I will
Okay.
Put it in our description.
Yeah.
With all these others.
Okay.
Well, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate your time, and this has been really, really nice to talk to you guys. So thank you.
Yeah, that's too.
Thank you.
Bye.